Hey guys, tonight we're slipping quietly into a place where steam rises from shallow stone basins and bare feet slap against the palace courtyards of 18th century Burma. You're a newcomer, assigned to the royal laundry at the court of Ava, capital of a realm both dazzling and dangerous. The sky's still dark, but the palace is already glowing faintly, its tiered roofs silhouetted in pre-dawn mist. The scent is thick: jasmine water, rotting limes, charcoal smoke, and something faintly sour. That's sweat. Yours. You're not a guest here. You're not nobility. You're not even staff. You're an outsider, a nobody, freshly recruited to help launder garments that could, and often do, get people killed. You will handle robes threaded with gold leaf, blessed by monks, touched by no one but royalty and their most trusted handlers. And now, that's you. Trusted. Sort of. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, where are you listening from tonight? Drop your city and local time in the comments. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge barefoot across uneven flagstones, your sleep still clinging to your eyelids, and arrive at the palace's southern laundry gate. There are no signs, of course. Just a squat stone archway carved with lotus petals and monkey gods, its top beam worn smooth by centuries of heads bowed in deference. You're met with no greetings, just a nod from a senior washerman, shirtless, all sinew and scars, who hands you a coarse rag soaked in flower water and points to a copper basin. You're to wash your hands and mouth, not for hygiene, for ritual purity. The palace laundry isn't just a workplace, it's a shrine, a bureaucracy, and a minefield. Everyone here has something to prove and something to lose. No one volunteers for this post. Most arrive by debt, punishment, or politics. You? You signed on for a copper coin and one daily bowl of fermented fish broth. Classic mistake. Inside the compound, you're instantly overwhelmed by the geometry of the operation. Long stone channels snake across the courtyard like ancient aqueducts, dividing water by purpose: rinse, dye, starch, sacred. The sun hasn't risen, but torches flicker along the perimeter, making the water shimmer like liquid jade. Dozens of other washermen are already working. Some are silent, others chant prayers. One is whipping a towel against a rock like it personally insulted his grandmother. And then there's the bundle, your first assignment. It's sitting on a lacquered tray beside an urn of coconut ash. You unwrap it gently. It's a longi. Silk, navy blue, embroidered with tiny gold elephant motifs, and a line of Pali script at the hem. A man's court garment, probably someone mid-ranking, but still powerful enough that one misplaced pleat could spark an inquiry, or a curse. You've heard the rumours. You fumble with it nervously, remembering what the senior washer barked at you earlier. If the fold faces east, the curse wakes. Face west. Always west. Right. Simple. East, doom. West, dignity. Unless it's festival season, in which case the rule reverses. But it's not festival season. Probably? As you bend to soak the hem in a solution of fermented banana peel and betel nut extract, you notice the watching eyes. Always watching. The girl grinding soapberries beside you hums a tune that matches your heartbeat. Slow, thudding, terrified. Across the courtyard, an old man sits cross-legged on a pedestal, pretending to drink tea. He's not a washer. He's the royal fold inspector, and his cane is tipped with jade. No one knows how old he is. No one asks. You will answer to him eventually. For now, focus. The washing begins. You work the silk in slow, circular motions, never wringing, never tugging. The fibres are sacred after all. Treated with monk's ash and oxblood, these garments don't obey normal fabric rules. They remember folds. They resent water that's too hot. And if you fail to chant while scrubbing the peacock emblem, well, let's just say the last guy who forgot now works in the crocodile trench, cleaning them with his mouth. Okay, slight exaggeration, but still, not ideal. Your stomach rumbles. You ignore it. The soup pot won't open until second moon height, long after the senior robes are steamed and folded into perfect thirds. As you rinse and lay the longi over a bamboo rack, the first rays of sun catch the gold threads, making them pulse, like veins, like warning lights. You've made it through your first scrub. The silk isn't screaming. Yet. Then it hits you. You're not alone. A soft shuffle, a breath. You turn. It's the head washerwoman, the real boss. Her eyes are rimmed with soot, her hair pulled tight into a knot that could punch a hole through granite. She doesn't speak. She just lifts the robe you washed, turns it over once, twice, and frowns. There's a smudge. You see it now. A faint crescent near the hem. Could be ash, could be shadow, could be your death warrant. She leans in. Do it again, she whispers, with your tears this time. She drops the robe on your head and walks away. Welcome to the palace laundry. You're not crying, yet, but it's a near thing. The robe is heavier now, somehow. Maybe it absorbed your panic, or maybe the gold threads just got a little thirstier. You peel it off your head, blink the sweat from your eyes, and start again. This time, slower. Around you, the palace is waking up. Gongs echo from the inner courtyard, calling monks to morning chant. A line of novice boys shuffles past, heads freshly shaven and wrapped in saffron robes. One pauses to scratch his ankle with a stick. You envy him. No one beats monks for folding errors. The palace hierarchy is complex and merciless. At the top, the king, of course. Then queens, princes, ministers, astrologers, and about 12 levels of people whose titles mean whispers near the throne. Laundryman, dead last. Except maybe for the poor soul who tends to the palace's elephants. But at least elephants don't complain if your soap mixes off. The royal laundry is technically part of the Inyawungi, the inner palace service division, but only in the way a rat might technically be part of a barn. You're invisible unless you fail. Then you're spectacularly visible. Your place is liminal. You touch the sacred garments of royalty, but you're never allowed to look directly at their faces. You carry their robes, but your name may never be spoken in their presence. You're both essential and disposable. The hierarchy runs even within your ranks. Today you're bottom tier, the finger water class. No dyes, no starching, no folds, just raw washing. You're not even allowed near the sacred bleach stones yet. But in time, with enough knuckle scars and properly whispered apologies to inanimate garments, you might rise to starcher, to presser, to robe wrapper, or, legend has it, to robe whisperer, a mythical rank said to interpret the moods of royal fabric. But you'll believe in unicorns first. As you work, the soapberry girl leans over and murmurs, "Careful today. The court astrologer's uncle died." You blink. So? She grins. So he's in a bad mood, and if your linen drips near the prayer stones, he might declare you unlucky. Ah, right. That makes perfect sense. In a palace where garments are cleansed under moonlight and robes can supposedly trap spirits. You remember the briefing from your first day? Really more of a barked sermon. Everything in this palace has eyes. Even the shirts. Especially the shirts. The old man with the jade cane stands suddenly and gestures for silence. Everyone stops. Even the birds seem to hush. Into the courtyard steps a girl no older than 10, carrying a tray on her head. On it a single crimson shawl, folded in 7 precise layers, with a sprig of jasmine laid across the top like punctuation. She sets it gently on the raised lacquer platform near the washing pools and bows. She's not a servant, she's a message. The red shawl belongs to the second queen, a woman known for her love of astrology, revenge poetry, and terrifyingly stiff collars. Sending her laundry early means she wants attention, or blood. The girl scurries away. No one moves until the old man points at a young washer to take the task. Not you. Yet. But it's a reminder. Even a handkerchief in this place can be a loaded weapon. There are real weapons, of course. Guards patrol the inner perimeter in tight loops, their spears polished to an almost comedic shine. You once watched a guard buff his spearhead with the sleeve of his own uniform. He caught you looking. You haven't blinked the same since. Then there's the laundry security system. Yes, that's a thing. Each garment is tracked using tiny wooden tokens stamped with glyphs. You were issued one this morning, a fish with 3 dots carved into the tail. If that token goes missing, so does your lunch, or your tongue, depending on whose robe gets lost. Historians still argue whether these laundry tokens were strictly practical or imbued with symbolic power. Some claim the glyphs carried subtle political messages. Others say it's just ancient bureaucracy at its weirdest. Either way, you tuck your token into your sash like it's sacred. A voice calls your name, your real one, not the laundry nickname, soap boy, everyone uses. It's the head washerman. He beckons with 2 fingers. You obey. He hands you a new bundle, a silk long-sleeved jacket, bright indigo with an embroidered phoenix climbing a flowering tree. Not royal, but close. A minister, maybe. Important enough that the phoenix must not fade in the wash. Quick rinse, he says. Do not soak. Use the green ladle, not the brass one. You blink. Why? He squints at you. Because the brass one makes the phoenix look drunk. Obviously. You locate the green ladle. It's carved from a single piece of coconut shell and bound with silver thread. You dip, pour, repeat. The phoenix shimmers, its wings catching the rising sun. Nearby, someone sneezes. Loudly. A bad omen. The old man with the jade cane makes a note on his slate. Somewhere, a punishment is being prepared, and then, just as you start to relax, the robe slips. Your hand was wet. The fabric was slick. The phoenix jacket lands on the floor, not in mud, but on bare stone. Clean, yes, but unsanctified. Worse, the phoenix is now upside down. You freeze. Everyone has noticed. The girl with the soapberries covers her mouth. The starcher next to her lets out a slow hiss. The old man is already walking toward you, cane tapping like a drumbeat of doom. You've got maybe 6 seconds to explain, or run, or pray. You choose none. You just bow, low, deep, until your forehead touches the wet stone and you feel the scrape of gravel against skin. Above you, silence. Then, again, the old man says, with your head folded this time. It's going to be a long morning. You're still kneeling on the cold stone, phoenix robe awkwardly in your lap, when the old man's cane taps the floor twice. That's the sign. Not forgiven, but tolerated. You may continue. With trembling hands, you right the jacket, this time cradling it like a newborn dragon. You rinse quickly, ladling precisely, then lay it across a curved bamboo frame. The phoenix shimmers again, mercifully intact. You breathe, but the lesson lingers. In this palace, there's a hierarchy of offences. Folding something backwards, minor sin. Letting a hem touch the ground, grave mistake. Dropping a phoenix, that's practically state treason with a splash of cosmic blasphemy. You've survived only because the stone was clean and, possibly, because the phoenix didn't flip its beak toward the royal chamber. That's considered good luck. Or a warning. Historians still argue, you're summoned again. This time by the starcher. A thick-browed man whose idea of small talk involves staring silently at your elbows. He points to a bundle resting beside a low fire pit. This one's wrapped in white cloth and tied with purple string. No embroidery, no sigils. It's the king's underrobe. No fanfare, no guards, just lying there like any other linen shirt. But you know what it is because of the purple string. That's reserved exclusively for garments worn beneath ceremonial armour. You don't ask how it got here. You just bow again, then bow once more, for safety. The starcher grunts and hands you a gourd of liquid. It smells like boiled rice water laced with lime zest. Half dip, then brush, no crinkles. You lift the underrobe gently, your arms aching from the sheer absurdity of how nervous you are about folding a piece of underwear. The fabric is thin, softer than breath, and dyed with a secret combination that supposedly includes powdered pearls. You do not want to know how many clams suffered for this. As you dip the bottom edge into the starch solution, your brush strokes mimic the motion the starcher showed you. Slow, circular, reverent. Each one must begin with a whispered Zaya, an invocation for clarity. Not spiritual clarity, fabric clarity. There's a difference. The shirt begins to stiffen slightly as it dries, which is your cue to transfer it to the press rack, but not before folding. And here is where things get ridiculous. There are precisely 7 approved methods for folding royal garments. Each method corresponds to a celestial body. The king's underrobe is to be folded in the row style, a fan fold with a reverse tuck at the waistline, symbolising the swallowing of shadows. You've practiced it once, on a piece of burlap that had a beetle in it. You take a breath and begin. First fold, second, pause, third, oh, it's crooked. You unfold, start again. Fourth, fifth, a drop of sweat lands on the cloth. You whisper an apology. Sixth, seventh, tuck, wrap, hold, done. You glance up. No one is watching, for once, but you still bow to the robe just in case it noticed. You carry it to the press rack, not the big iron one used for ceremonial jackets. That would burn it. You use the curved bamboo press, weighted with a clay pot. The system works purely by pressure and patience. As you set it down, a voice breaks the quiet. Not bad, for someone who nearly assassinated a phoenix. It's the Soapbury girl again. She's beside you, arms elbow deep in a cauldron of frothy water. What's your name? You hesitate. Tun. Or a real name? You blink. Still Tun. She smirks. I'm Kin. Real name, fake name, whatever. You'll probably get renamed by the astrologer anyway. You glance at her. Why would the astrologer rename me? She shrugs. To balance your energies, or to confuse ghosts, depends on the day. You want to laugh, but it's hard to laugh in this place, so you just nod, trying to hold the smile behind your teeth. Then a bell chimes. Break time. You don't eat during this break. You breathe, that's the point. Everyone finds a spot along the outer courtyard wall and sits silently for 15 minutes. No talking, no movement, just quiet breathing. It's meant to reset the nervous system after exposure to royal garments. That's not a joke. You sit next to Kin, who has taken a single red chili from her sash and is chewing it slowly, like a meditative act. You envy her poise. You, meanwhile, are trying to figure out if the fold you made earlier felt spiritually balanced. Do clothes hold grudges? You're starting to believe they might. At the far edge of the courtyard, a group of senior washers huddles in a semicircle. They're playing some sort of gambling game with dried apricot pits and folded parchment. One tosses a pit, the others chant. It's probably illegal, it's definitely mesmerizing. Suddenly there's a flurry of motion. A royal runner, barefoot, out of breath, bursts through the gate holding a silver tray high above his head. Everyone stands instantly. On the tray, a length of cloth, deep green with a golden border. The robe of the Grand Chamberlain, and it's stained. Oh no! The runner approaches the head washerman and whispers something. The old man turns purple. He points directly at the starcher. The starcher turns toward you. Why? Because you were the last to use that press rack. Apparently your clay weight had been slightly off-centre, just enough to cause a ripple that turned into a fold that set into the fabric like a wrinkle in fate, and now the Grand Chamberlain's sash looks crumpled. There are no words, just the quiet whistle of the cane being lifted from its stand. This isn't fair. You didn't even touch that robe. But it doesn't matter. Justice here is like starch, uneven, heavy, and quick to crack. The cane smacks the ground beside your foot, not on your foot. Yet. The head washer growls, "Fix it, or you fold nothing else this moon." You bow, again. Fix it how? You don't know, but you do know this. One fold really can cost you everything. You stare at the crumpled sash like it just whispered something threatening. This little ripple? It looks harmless, barely a tremble across the golden silk. But in the eyes of the Grand Chamberlain, it's a cosmic insult. A ripple like that implies disrespect, a warp in fate, an omen that the chambers themselves are out of order. You're not just fixing a wrinkle, you're smoothing over an interdimensional insult. No pressure. The head washer slaps a bundle of tools down next to you. Thin reeds for dampening, a square of polished horn for buffing, a palm oil rag, and something that looks suspiciously like a squirrel's tail on a stick. Use whatever works, he grumbles, but don't make it worse. Great. That's always the goal. Don't make it worse. You dab at the ripple with the oil rag, trying to relax your hand. You press with the horn, coaxing the fabric to lay flat, whispering apologies under your breath like you're trying to convince a cat not to bite. Beside you, Kin offers a quiet suggestion. Try steam from your breath. Slowly, like a priest praying. You do. It helps. Slightly. The ripple begins to relax, softening into the surrounding weave like it's finally ready to let go of its tantrum. You gently guide the edge with the squirrel tail tool, supposedly for coaxing royal threads. Historians still debate whether these tools were really used in palace laundries or just ceremonial fluff. Honestly, you don't care. It's working. After several minutes, the sash lies smooth. You don't smile. Not yet. You carry it, carefully, like it's balancing a soul, and lay it flat on a reed mat in front of the inspector. He says nothing, just hovers a hand above it, like he's feeling for heat. Then he nods, barely. You're spared, for now. You shuffle back to your corner, the adrenaline crashing into your knees. Kin passes you a pebble of palm sugar. You earned it. You suck on it gratefully. It tastes like relief. The rest of the day should be easier now. You think that. You're wrong. Another bundle arrives, this one wrapped in yellow silk, bound with thread the colour of dried blood. No one touches it. It sits in the centre of the courtyard like a scorpion on a dinner plate. Finally, the old inspector waves 2 fingers. You and another washer, Mo, a quiet man with hands like stone carvings, step forward. The bundle belongs to the Royal Peacock Guard. Now, if the king's robes are sacred, the Peacock Guard's garments are possessed, or at least touched. There's a belief, possibly invented by the guards themselves, that their uniforms house the spirits of past protectors. Every peacock feather embroidered on their tunics is a borrowed eye, and if one eye goes cloudy, someone pays for it. You and Mo unfold the garment carefully. It's stunning. Midnight blue, embroidered with an explosion of feathers that shimmer in daylight. The back features a full fan of iridescent thread so vibrant it looks like actual plumage. But there's a stain, not a big one. A faint splash of what looks like oil, blood, coconut syrup. Mo frowns. Not ours. No one cares. You're both expected to clean it. The process is terrifying. The garment must be purified with flower water laced with ground pearl and turmeric ash. You brush with orchid root paste, chant every 4th stroke, and avoid touching the eye spots directly. Because if one of them closes, as the guards put it, someone could mysteriously disappear. That someone is probably you. You and Mo work in total silence. Around you, the courtyard seems to tense. Even the wind pulls back. A hawk circles overhead, watching, judging. After an hour, the stain fades. Almost. Mo whispers. It's good. You nod, but the inspector leans in. His finger traces something invisible. He sniffs. Too floral. Your hearts drop. Too floral? Apparently the orchid paste has overpowered the garment's aura. You used 1 leaf too many. The scent might cause offence to the guard, or to the spirits, or to the guard's spirits. The inspector considers you both for a moment, then raises one eyebrow. You'll deliver it, he says, pointing to you. Your stomach falls into your knees. You'll carry it directly to the guard pavilion, barefoot, head bowed. Do not look at them. This is unexpected. Delivering a garment personally means one of 2 things. Either you're being honoured, or you're being watched. And since the inspector didn't smile, you can guess which one it is. You wrap the garment in fresh linen and walk, barefoot, out of the courtyard. The palace grounds are a surreal maze of flagstone paths, stone animal statues and drifting incense. You pass young monks sweeping with peacock feather brooms, palace guards reciting mantras, and a chicken that seems oddly judgmental. At the base of the guard pavilion you pause. The building looms above you, its roof spiked with golden finials shaped like claws. 2 guards wait at the top of the stairs, their spears crossed casually like chopsticks over a meal they might eat later. You ascend. You do not speak. You lay the bundle on a low table covered in red lacquer. A guard steps forward. He lifts the robe, inspects it with the precision of a gem merchant, then, without a word, sets it aside and claps twice. You're dismissed. You descend the steps, unsure if that was a win or a warning. When you return to the courtyard, Kin is waiting. So, she asks. You shrug. No beheading. She grins. Then it's a win. You want to believe her. Later that evening, you sit by the rinse pool watching stars ripple across the surface. The courtyard is mostly quiet now, just the clink of pots, the rustle of drying silk, the low humming of a starcher tuning his ladle like a lute. Somehow, you survive today. But just as your breathing begins to slow, a runner arrives with a scroll. It's for you, your name, written in red ink. This has never happened before. You unroll it. It says, "Tomorrow you will clean the ceremonial peacock robe. Do not fail. The one with the gold eyes. The one cursed by 3 generations of priests. The one that's never been washed without incident." Kin peeks over your shoulder. "Oh," she whispers, "you're dead." Sleep doesn't come easily when you're anticipating a curse. You lie on your straw mat in the laundry barracks, staring at the woven ceiling, listening to the slow breaths of other washermen around you. Every crack in the roof seems to whisper, peacock robe, like the curse is rehearsing your name. You wake before dawn, too nervous to wait for the gong. Your hands shake as you rinse your face in chilled jasmine water. The robe will arrive soon. You can feel it. There's a tingle in the air, the kind that settles just before a monsoon or a royal tantrum. By the time you reach the courtyard, the other workers have already cleared a space in the centre. A low bamboo platform has been set up, surrounded by bowls of fragrant water, brushes carved from sandalwood, and herbs used more for protection than cleaning. Someone's placed a small shrine nearby, with offerings of rice cakes, feathers, and a single candle that won't stay lit. You kneel, wait, breathe, and then it arrives. 2 silent eunuchs carry the peacock robe between them on a lacquered tray draped in white silk. No one speaks, not even the inspector. The eunuchs set the tray on the platform, bow to the robe, yes, the robe, and leave without a sound. You don't touch it, not yet. First, you perform the cleansing ritual. You light sandalwood incense, pour blessed water into a clay bowl, and chant the laundry prayer. Not for strength, not for clarity, but for forgiveness. Because this robe holds centuries of royal arrogance, forgotten bloodlines, and thread dyed with minerals considered too sacred for even monks to wear. Only after the 3rd belt holes do you unwrap it. It is magnificent. The peacock robe is less garment than vision, layers of iridescent silk embroidered with thousands of eye-shaped feathers, each outlined in gold leaf. The thread has a faint shimmer, like it remembers sunlight. 1,000 eyes gaze upward, unblinking, judging your every breath. This is the king's ceremonial battle robe, worn during palace rituals that reenact cosmic wars between order and chaos. You know this because Kin once whispered the story in your ear during a starch break. He wears it when walking the world tree path. Every fold aligns with a realm, and now you're meant to wash it. No one explains how. There's no manual, just rumours. One washer tried to iron it, vanished within the week. Another folded it too sharply, lost the use of his hands for a month. A third simply disrespected the eye motif by drying it under direct sun. His name is no longer spoken. Even historians can't agree on what happened, or if it ever did. Still, the robe must be cleaned, so you begin. First, you chant. Each section of the robe gets its own verse, its own apology. You brush the surface with a dry cloth soaked in a moonflower extract. Then, a wipe of crushed lotus petal, filtered through silk gauze. You never, ever rub, only tap, as if trying to wake the robe from a light nap. After 20 minutes, you lift the edge carefully to inspect for dust or mildew. You see something strange, a thread that glows faintly when turned toward the east. Not gold, not silk, something else. You don't touch it. Kin appears beside you, silent as always, holding a bowl of lime water. "Final rinse," she whispers. You nod. Together you lower the robe into the ceremonial basin, a wide, shallow bowl lined with marble tiles and carved with protective sigils. The water, faintly milky from crushed pearls and bone ash, ripples around the fabric. The robe seems to float, undisturbed, as if the laws of gravity don't apply. Kin hums under her breath. It's not a song. It's a counter-curse, one of the old ones passed down by laundry workers who'd seen too much. The eyes of the robe, close, just for a second. Or maybe you imagined it. The water darkens slightly, not with dirt, but with memory. You feel it. All the ceremonies, all the sweat, the tears, the fear. It leaches into the basin like a ghost being exorcised. You lift the robe out together. Neither of you speaks. You do not wring it. You do not shake it. You carry it, 2 hands each, onto a raised frame covered with sun-warmed cloth. Not in the sun, not in shadow, right between, the exact middle line between day and night, called the Rajalin. It's the only place the robe is allowed to dry. Once it's laid flat, you step back and bow. Then you wait. The drying takes 1 full hour. During that time, you sit cross-legged before the robe and chant the fold sequence. Yes, it has a chant. Everything here has a chant. As you recite, a wind picks up. It doesn't touch your skin. Only the robe. The golden eyes on the feathers shimmer. A ripple moves across the fabric, then settles. Kin murmurs, "It accepts." You exhale for the first time in 10 minutes. Now for the fold. You must follow the 9-fold pattern, an esoteric technique developed by royal tailors and astrologers over generations. Every fold corresponds to a star. Every tuck mirrors a turn of fate. You begin, first fold, toward the west. Second, under the central eye. Third, diagonal, over the heart thread. Fourth, reverse. Fifth, pause. Sixth, Don't blink. 7th, whisper the king's honorifics. 8th, hold your breath. 9th, seal with your thumbprint. It is done. The robe lies folded like a sleeping phoenix, radiant, terrifying, complete. A bell chimes. You and Kin carry the robe to the courier eunuchs waiting at the gate. They lift it without a word, nod once, and vanish into the palace. The inspector approaches. He looks down at your hands, then the robe's empty frame, then your eyes. And he bows. He bows. Not deeply, but enough. Kin's mouth drops open. He's never bowed to anyone. The others watch in stunned silence. You don't know what to do, so you bow back, possibly too low. Your forehead hits the bamboo floor. Congratulations, he says. You just lived through the peacock robe. Then he turns to Kin. Get him something sweet, he's earned it. She grins. Palm candy? He nods. And no soap duty tomorrow. You almost cry. Not because of the robe, but because for the first time since you arrived, you might actually survive this job. You wake up the next morning to the smell of something shockingly pleasant. Grilled coconut and fresh palm syrup. Not soap, not sweat, not starch gone wrong. At first, you think you're dreaming. Then Kin waves a sticky rice cake in your face. Celebration, she says. You didn't explode yesterday. You sit up groggily. That's the bar now? She nods. Welcome to survival. The other washermen are already at their stations, but there's a noticeable shift in the air. Instead of side eyes and grumbles, you get subtle nods. One man even lets you cut in line for the ladle. That's practically royalty in laundry circles. Your first task of the day is shockingly normal. A pile of high-ranking clerical robes. Boring, beige, and blessedly unmagical. Just fabric, not prophecy. The biggest danger here is lint. But of course the peace doesn't last. The royal inspector of linen appears. No announcement, no sound. One moment he isn't there, the next he's beside your rinse basin like a ghost made of wrinkles and vinegar. He taps the bamboo pole beside you. Ceremonial folding demonstration, he says. Now. Your stomach drops into your toes. There's a folding yard behind the main courtyard, reserved for formal instruction and humiliations. It's where apprentices are forced to repeat a fold 108 times while monks watch silently from the porch. You follow him there, laid out before you, a training cloth. It's huge, easily the length of a cart, and divided into segments with painted lines. Each segment is labelled in gold lacquer. Royal hem, collar of honour, shoulder of obedience. You're to demonstrate the 7-fold swaddle, a technique reserved for ceremonial longies worn by generals during palace audiences. It starts simply enough, tuck, fold, align, but quickly becomes more choreography than laundry. By the 4th fold, your hands are shaking. By the 5th, you realise your left pinky is cramping. By the 6th, you feel the gaze. There's an audience now. Monks, starchers, even the eunuch courier from yesterday. They're watching to see if the peacock survivor can do it again. You finish the 7th fold, perfectly aligned, or so you think. The inspector walks around the cloth slowly, very slowly. The kind of slow that says, I smell weakness and I enjoy it. He lifts one corner of the hem, a crease, invisible to mortal eyes, but not to him. He grunts. Redo it. You bow and start again. This time, you go slower, not just precise, deliberate, like folding a prayer. Your hands remember the rhythm now. They've absorbed the pulse of the palace. Bend, flatten, slide, press. Fold 7 clicks into place like a puzzle piece. The inspector says nothing, which is the best thing he can say. You're dismissed with a flick of his wrist. Back in the main courtyard, Kin meets you with a lopsided grin. How many folds? 14, you sigh, for one robe. She whistles. That's just one less than the Queen's hairbun protocol. Wait, what? She nods. You think laundry's strict. Try doing the Queen Mother's hair wrong. The last maid who used the wrong comb now scrubs temple steps. You file that away under. Glad I only do linens. Then comes the real surprise. The starcher, the same guy who once threatened to glue your lips shut with rice paste, tosses you a pouch. Your day off, he says. Palace astrologer said your aura needs cooling. What? Kin leans in. He probably saw what you did with the peacock robe. Now they think you're energetically balanced. That's absurd. Also, flattering. And just like that, you're given the rarest gift in the palace laundry. A midday break. You don't waste it. You wander the outer palace grounds. Technically off limits. But no one stops you. You walk past the elephant paddocks. Yes, even the elephants look judgmental. Through the bonsai gardens, and finally to the shade of the sandstone archway that overlooks the Irrawaddy River. You sit. Breathe. For once not coated in starch or fear. A passing novice monk offers you a candied tamarind. You trade him a palm sugar pebble. It's the most human exchange you've had all week. As you chew, you notice something odd. An elderly woman sitting cross-legged beneath a flowering tree. She's dressed in the plain robe of a servant, but wears a pin that identifies her as Royal Wardrobe Archivist. That's a real title, one of the highest in the laundry hierarchy. She's the keeper of every robe pattern, every folding ritual, every myth sewn into fabric. You don't approach her, she approaches you. You folded the peacock robe, she says. You blink. Yes, honoured one. She studies you. Tell me, did it whisper? That's not the question you were expecting. You hesitate. I think it moved, on its own, briefly. She nods, as if you just confirmed something she suspected for years. Then it accepted you. Accepted? She leans in. The robe isn't cursed, it's selective, only responds to certain hands, and certain fears. Fears? She smiles faintly. Those who fear failure often fold best. The ones who feel nothing, they make it angry. She stands, hands you a bundle wrapped in soft cloth. Practice these tonight. They're training patterns for the HTI umbrella silks. You nearly drop the bundle. HTI silks, the sacred parasol that shades the king. You've never even seen one up close. Why me? She walks away. Over her shoulder, she says, the fabric remembers you. That's enough. You sit there a long time, the bundle heavy in your lap. You came here to survive. But now, the palace is starting to notice you. And fabric, it turns out, never forgets. Back in the laundry quarters that night, the training silks feel more alive than cloth should. They're not magical, not officially, but there's a tension in the weave, like they're listening. You unfold one carefully. The fabric is impossibly light, woven so finely it feels more like fog than fibre. Silks like this aren't worn. They're revered. They're stitched for a single purpose, to flutter above the king's golden HTI, the sacred umbrella of rule, during ceremonies that tether the heavens to the earth. And now you're supposed to fold them. You lay out the first piece on your mat, double-checking that the corners face north and south. Even in training, orientation matters. Everything in this palace is ruled by direction, by astrology, by unseen rules written in the margins of a monk's dream. The first fold is a triangle. Easy enough. The second, a reverse kite fold. That one takes 3 tries. By the 5th, you've accidentally turned the silk into what looks like a very confused crane. You start over. Again. From across the room, Kin watches. She doesn't interrupt. She just chews on a roasted chickpea and hums. Occasionally she nods approvingly, especially when you mutter insults at the fabric under your breath. Good, she says. They can hear you. You pause. You're joking, she shrugs. Not really. The silks are woven under vow. The spinners aren't allowed to speak while working. That silence stays in the threads. You fold more carefully after that. The next morning, you return the training silks to the archivist's alcove, slipping them between scrolls of pattern diagrams and drying bundles of scented herbs. You say nothing, neither does she, but there's a fresh bundle left for you by the door. Your name is written on it in gold ink. It's official now. You're being trained. You go through the day differently after that. You still haul water, you still scrub linings, you still swear under your breath when the soap buckets slosh into your sandals, but you feel it. The shift. Even the other washers start asking you things. How did you balance the starch on the phoenix wing? Did the robe really blink? Is the inspector mortal? You dodge the questions, partly because you're unsure of the answers, partly because you're starting to realise that certainty is a luxury in this place. That afternoon, your regular assignment is interrupted. A message is passed down the chain, quietly, like a secret prayer. The Queen Mother has requested a refresh of her ceremonial linens. This isn't news to be celebrated, it's a trial. The Queen Mother's linens are notorious. Woven with sea silk. Yes, that's a real thing, fibres harvested from mollusks, and embroidered with hair from sacred white elephants. They are said to detect disrespect. One slip, one stain, one human emotion in your handling, and she'll declare the entire batch spiritually spoiled. You've heard stories. Linens burned in the courtyard, workers sent to monkhood for cleansing. Once, an assistant starcher was reassigned to brushing the palace cats with his tongue. Okay, that last part might be exaggerated slightly. So of course, the task falls to you and Kin. You look at her. She sighs. Figures. Together you collect the linens. 6 robes, 2 shawls, and one absolutely terrifying piece called the Veil of Gongs, which jingles when you fold it wrong. You will fold it wrong. You set up in the southeast washing alcove closest to the mango trees. It's quiet there. Breezy. You need that, because you're about to wash the royal equivalent of a thunderstorm wrapped in silk. You begin with the first robe of blessing, a silver-threaded piece that glows faintly in shade. You wash it with lime peel water and chant every 7th stroke. Kin sings quietly, a tune that aligns your hands to her rhythm. It works. The cloth seems to relax. Next, the sleeves of reflection. These are rumoured to show a viewer's true face in water. You try not to look. Then comes the Veil of Gongs. You lift it. It chimes once. Bad. You set it down. It chimes again. Worse. Kin raises an eyebrow. Try folding it like a letter. You try. It chimes in protest. Okay, she says. Not a love letter. Eventually you discover the trick. Fold inward, bow with each fold, and exhale like you're releasing a burden. The gongs go quiet. Nice, Kin murmurs. Now don't breathe near it again. By the time you finish the final piece, the elephant hair shawl, your arms are trembling, your knees ache, and your mouth tastes like soap and superstition. You carry the set to the drying chamber, a sealed space lined with mirrors and glass bowls of burning resin. No sunlight touches these linens. They dry in sanctified vapour. As you lay the robes out on suspended racks, a young courier slips inside. He wears the insignia of the Queen's chamber and carries a scroll. You brace yourself. The Queen Mother approves. You blink. Already? The courier nods. Her astrologer said your fold pattern aligned with the Star of Returning. She finds that auspicious. You don't understand half of that. You don't need to. Because in this palace, auspicious is the closest thing to a promotion. You and Kin leave the drying chamber in dazed silence. Outside, the old inspector is waiting. He doesn't scowl this time. He just says, "Tomorrow, the HTI silks, full fold, ceremony prep." You freeze. Kin gasps. That's the highest linen in the land, she whispers. You nod. It is, and you've just been asked to fold it. No pressure, only history, the heavens, and half the kingdom watching. The next morning you're awake before the first bell, already rinsing your hands in a bowl of lime blossom water. Not for cleanliness, though that's a bonus, but for focus. Today isn't just laundry. Today you fold the sky. The HTI silks are sacred. Not royal, not ceremonial, sacred. These are the vibrant streamers that flow from the top of the king's HTI, the gilded umbrella that crowns the palace like a sunbeam frozen in gold. Every fold you place today will rise into the sky, catch the wind, and be seen by thousands, by spirits, by deities, maybe even by your ancestors. Maybe even, Kin meets you near the HTI prep pavilion. She's already carrying 3 bundles wrapped in ceremonial green cloth. Her hair is braided tightly, too tightly. You can tell she didn't sleep either. Ready? She asks. You nod, but your mouth is too dry to answer. The HDI pavilion is different from the rest of the laundry compound. No steam, no splashing. Just silence, polished teak floors, and silk bundles placed on stone pedestals surrounded by oil lamps. The air smells like sandalwood, petrichor, and the faint trace of lightning before a storm. The air is alive. A monk waits near the centre of the room, silently observing. His job isn't to instruct, it's to witness, and to spiritually arrest anyone who folds something backwards. You and Kin set up your stations, no brushes, no starch, just your hands, your breath, and an invisible thread of tension that runs from your fingertips to the roof of the pavilion. You start with the first wind panel. It's long, nearly 4 meters of iridescent gold and azure silk, translucent and feather-light. You unfold it like unveiling a relic. Every fold is timed to your exhale. Every press is a prayer. This isn't about neatness, it's about reverence. The technique is called the 9-breath sequence. You must finish the entire fold within 9 slow, deliberate breaths. If you rush, the panel puckers, If you hesitate, it sags. There's no room for doubt. First fold, east to west. Second, diagonal sun path. Third, shoulder width press. Fourth, turn. Fifth, double crease along the vein of the sky. Sixth, pause. Seventh, tight tuck, no friction. Eighth, reversal under breath. Ninth, seal. You finish with your eyes half closed, unsure if you even blinked. The monk bows slightly. Not to you, to the cloth. That's how you know it's done right. Next is the sunline streamer. This one's crimson with threads of orange and silver. It's meant to capture the light at dawn. The myth goes that if folded during a lunar eclipse, the silk becomes angry and will flutter uncontrollably, causing bad omens to ripple down from the HTI. Good news, no eclipse today. Only nervous sweat. Kin folds beside you in near-perfect synchronicity. The room has a rhythm now, like a woven heartbeat. Each silk is treated like a mood, a personality. You learn their differences. Some want tight folds, others looser. One of them, the azure plume, needs to be warmed under your palms before folding, or it curls in protest. Historians still argue, Kin whispers at one point, whether the silks are enchanted or just very well made. You nod slowly. Maybe both. The final panel is the Royal Knight banner, a deep indigo silk laced with star patterns made from crushed mica and fish-scale glimmer. It's said to represent the king's dreamscape. One wrong crease, and you're literally folding his subconscious the wrong way. You approach it like you're entering a temple barefoot. The silence grows even deeper. Even your heartbeat feels like an interruption. The folding pattern is celestial spiral, an inward curve reversing at specific angles, meant to emulate the Milky Way. It's a notorious sequence. One misalignment and the entire thing unfolds when hoisted, flapping like a broken wing. Your fingers twitch nervously. Kin notices. She whispers, "Let it lead. Don't force it." So you do. You let the silk pull your fingers, let the tension guide your thumb, let your breath fall into rhythm with the pattern's pulse, and it works. Slowly, impossibly, you create the spiral, each turn tighter than the last, each layer aligning perfectly with the one before it. You finish. The banner lies in your lap like a sleeping shadow. The monk claps once, a signal. 2 eunuchs enter to carry the completed silks to the ceremonial rigging crew. They'll be hoisted onto the HTI before sunset, just in time for the king's full moon observance. You stand back watching them go. A piece of you goes with them. That was your fold up there, fluttering in the sky. Your breath, your fingers, your fear, now part of the palace skyline. Kin nudges you. You know what this means? You shrug. It means, she says slowly, that now everyone's watching. She's not wrong, because when you return to the main compound, you're greeted not with chores, but with a chair. Not just any chair, a cushioned one, reserved for court scribes and senior starchers. It's shaded. There's even tea. You stare at it like it might bite you. The old inspector appears, of course, cane in hand, still grumpy, but he gestures to the chair. "Sit," he says. "You're now folding Division 3, Rank 2. That's an actual title." He leans in. "Enjoy it. Your next assignment is tomorrow." You raise an eyebrow. "What is it?" He smiles. "Barely. The Queen's mourning robe." You swallow. Mourning robes are cursed, everyone knows that, even Kin winces. Still, you sit. Sip the tea, let the sun touch your skin. Because even if tomorrow brings curses, for now you've folded the sky. The Queen's mourning robe arrives at dawn, wrapped in jet black silk and sealed with a knot of white cotton thread. No bells, no trumpet, no attendants, just a eunuch silently placing it on the stone platform outside the starch room and walking away like he's carrying a disease. You don't touch it. Not right away. Mourning robes are unlike any other garment in the palace. Not because of how they look, they're often plain, deliberately so, but because of what they carry. Emotion, ceremony, death, and in this case, layers of unresolved court tension. This particular robe was last worn during the funeral rites of the Queen Mother's cousin, a man whose mysterious passing triggered 3 weeks of court silence, a sudden shift in the Minister of Boats, and rumours of assassination via Lotus route. Even now no one speaks his name, not aloud. Not even the archivist. You bow to the robe. Kin watches from a safe distance, arms crossed. I don't envy you, you force a weak smile. You're not leaving, though, she shrugs. Someone has to warn the ghosts. Before beginning, you change into clean robes, dull grey ones used only for morning linen handling. Even your tools are different. Ebony-handled brushes, a silver basin, and a dry cloth spun from spider silk. No jokes. You begin the unfolding ritual. It's a slow, spiralling movement, always counterclockwise, symbolising the unwinding of sorrow. You speak the old words as you lift the fabric. Sorrow born in silence, silk made soft by shadow. The robe itself is heavier than expected, not in weight, but in presence. The black silk absorbs light, drinks it in. The sleeves taper like falling water. The collar bears a stitched line of tiny white flowers, Dok Kun, known for blooming just before funerals. You know better than to wash it like a normal garment. It's not dirty, it's loaded. Your job is to release the sorrow it holds without disturbing the dignity it still must display. It's like coaxing grief to uncurl without ever naming it. You soak it gently in shadow rinse, a blend of river water drawn only before sunrise, lemon balm and cooled ash from sandalwood incense. You stir it slowly, never splashing. The robe floats, barely moving, like it's remembering someone it shouldn't. You think of your own family, a cousin, lost during a river crossing, a grandmother who whispered about spirits in the folds of her funeral sash. Maybe grief does stay in fabric. Kin hands you a cloth woven from cayenne grass, used for blotting mourning robes. You pat the silk dry, never wringing. Every motion you make is a gesture of apology, not for a stain, for a story you'll never hear. The pressing frame is different too, built of white teak, set with inlaid obsidian. Pressing a mourning robe on normal wood, that's asking for dreams, the kind that whisper. You position the robe with care. Every fold must point inward. Mourning folds are the only ones that turn back toward the heart. They're not meant to flutter in wind or shine in moonlight. They are meant to remain still. You start the 9 regret fold. First, fold the left sleeve beneath the heart. Second, tuck the hem beneath the shoulder. Third, press the collar toward the belly. Fourth, pause. Fifth, reverse the hem. Sixth, fold the sorrow. Seventh, cover it. Eighth, seal it. Ninth, let go. You lay it gently on a fresh tray lined with rice paper. No ribbon, no perfume, only a sprig of lemongrass, a symbol of light returning. When you turn around, the inspector is there, so is the archivist, and, somehow, the Queen's personal steward, who you've only ever seen from a distance. He says nothing, just lifts the tray, inspects the fold, and nods once. Then he walks away. No praise, no reward, but no condemnation either. That's the best you can hope for. As the steward disappears through the southern gate, Kin exhales next to you. You did it. You're not sure what it is anymore. Surviving? Speaking a language made of folds? Maybe both. She adds, they'll probably send you to the moon robes next. You laugh. Big mistake. She's serious. The moon robes are ceremonial garments worn by the king during the night of the 9 vows, a ritual involving fasting, stargazing, and reciting every law ever written. The robes are silver-dyed, shimmer under starlight, and, according to superstition, disappear from mortal sight if handled improperly. Historians still argue whether that means they physically vanish or someone takes them away in a huff. Either way, laundrymen dread the assignment. But you're not thinking about moon robes right now, because you're being called. Again. This time, not by the inspector or the archivist, but by a monk. Not just any monk. The Ink Monk. You've heard stories about him. Keeper of scrolls, writer of secret prayers, and, most relevantly, the scribe of all royal garment rituals. If the inspector guards how you fold, this monk decides why. He leads you quietly into the small scriptoria tucked between the library and the inner courtyard. It's filled with scrolls, some cloth, some paper, some leather. The air smells of ink and rain. He gestures to a low table. There lies a parchment with your name, not your nickname, your full actual name. Next to it is a robe, small, child-sized, simple. This, the monk says, is the Crown Prince's robe for the planting festival. You'll fold it tonight, alone. You look at the parchment again. It's not an instruction. It's a trust. You bow. And the monk says something you'll never forget. Every fold we place in this world unfolds somewhere else. Be gentle. The Crown Prince's robe sits before you like a still pool of water, quiet but deep. It's small, barely the length of your forearm, and woven from sky-coloured silk so pale it's almost translucent. The edges shimmer faintly, stitched with thread rumoured to be soaked in crushed pearls and the tears of a royal midwife. That last part is probably exaggerated. Probably. You're in a private room now, one reserved for single garment rituals. No couriers, no eunuchs, no kin. Just you, a lamp, and a robe that will soon be worn by the future king at the planting festival. The ritual that welcomes the rainy season and begs the earth to yield. Children's robes are deceptively difficult. They require the gentleness of a lullaby and the precision of a blade. Too tight a fold and the silk won't breathe. Too loose and the fabric will wrinkle when the prince walks. Worse still, this robe will be paraded before monks, generals, even foreign ambassadors. One sagging sleeve and you've insulted 3 religions and accidentally cursed the rice harvest. You exhale slowly and light a cone of sandalwood incense. Then you unfold the robe. It's sleeveless, with a diamond collar and flared hem, designed for movement and modesty. The back bears a single motif, a golden rice shoot, embroidered with tiny green buds, and a dragonfly no larger than your fingernail. It dances when you tilt the fabric. There's a ritual here, the planting robe sequence. First, the blessing sweep. You brush the silk with a cloth dipped in lemongrass water and whispered lullabies. You do this 3 times, from hem to shoulder. The cloth must never lift from the fabric. Lifting breaks the dream. Second, the rainline fold. You bring the bottom edge up, not evenly, but with a slight stagger, meant to mimic the way rain falls on new seedlings. You press lightly, as if pressing memory into place. Third, the promise tuck. A delicate roll from left to right, ending with a single knot of thread tucked into the collar. Traditionally, that thread is placed by the queen. This time, it's already there. Pale lavender, embroidered with the prince's birth glyph, a crescent moon cradling a stalk of rice. You pause, hands hovering over the fabric. It's more than laundry now. It's the beginning of someone's legend. You complete the final fold, the growing root, and press your thumbs lightly over the hem. Not hard, just enough to mark presence. Not ownership, presence. A bell chimes outside. Timing couldn't be better. The robe is now ready. You place it in the delivery tray, lined with woven rice straw and scattered with jasmine petals. You cover it with a sheer muslin cloth, not to hide it, but to let it breathe. And because even garments, at this level, deserve modesty, just as you're about to return to your usual duties, a parchment arrives. Not a command, a summons. You've been requested for inspection in the outer court of textiles, an area you've never seen before. Only 3 ranks above you can enter freely. Even Kin hasn't been there. She once called it the wardrobe equivalent of the inner sanctum. You walk slowly, respectfully, through the southern cloister, past rooms filled with gold thread bobbins and garment diagrams inked onto dried banana leaves. The further in you go, the quieter it gets. Finally you arrive. The outer court is a garden, literally. Manicured trees shaped like robes, shrubs trimmed to look like hanging jackets. Silk ribbons flutter from branches, and in the centre, a loom the size of an elephant made from ebony and brass carved with serpents, bells and fireflies. Sitting beside it is the Royal Master of Threads. Yes, that's a title. He oversees everything made from thread in the palace. Ropes, sails, temple curtains, fishing nets, and of course, royal clothing. He's ancient. Possibly a statue come to life. Eyes like cracked porcelain, voice like wind in paper. You folded the Crown Prince's robe, he says without looking up. You nod. Bow. Did it speak to you? You hesitate. It breathed. He finally looks at you, smiles faintly. That's enough. He gestures to the loom. You'll assist. Your heart nearly stops. Nobody assists the Master of Threads. They watch him from a distance and hope to be reborn as his apprentice 3 lifetimes from now. But he's serious. You step forward. He hands you a shuttle, a curved piece of bone wrapped with thread so fine it looks like spider silk dipped in moonlight. Pull when I say, he murmurs. You do. Together, you weave the first threads of the mid-year robe, a ceremonial garment to be worn by the king at the half-moon reconciliation rite. a ritual that ensures no rivalries fester in the court. The robe is made from a blend of 5 silks: sun, moon, shadow, ash, and lightning. You don't know how that's possible. You just pull and listen. He speaks softly, narrating the weave like a story. This thread, he says, was spun by a widow who never remarried. It carries patience. This one dyed under eclipse, holds forgiveness. This strand is from the Queen's first robe, unravelled and rewoven into wisdom. Every thread carries a meaning, a memory. Every robe a history lesson with a hemline. By the end of the session, you haven't just helped to weave fabric, you've helped write prophecy. The Master of Threads nods once. You listen well. That night, Kin finds you in the courtyard staring at your fingers. You're different, she says. I think, you whisper, I just folded part of the future. It rains the next morning. Not the angry, thunderous kind that slams onto rooftops like a war drum, but a soft, insistent drizzle that soaks in slowly, like the palace itself is remembering something sad. Rain changes everything here. The air gets heavier, the stone paths become mirrors, and for the laundry workers, rain means bleach duty. Not chemical bleach. No, that would be too easy. Here, bleaching is sacred and difficult. It involves sunlight, lime water, and the lunar calendar. But when it rains, sunlight's off the table. So instead, you're assigned to the bleach stones. You follow the inspector's cane taps to the northeast terrace, where rows of wide, flat stones sit like ancient pancakes. They're polished smooth, arranged in spirals, and, legend has it, carved from the floor of a monastery that collapsed during a royal scandal. Why? Because scandal is apparently great for whitening. Today's garments, white inner robes for the king's evening purification ceremony. They must be spotless, not clean, not pleasant, spotless. You and 3 others, including Mo, the silent hulking one, carry the garments in clay pots, already soaking in a mix of lemon zest, rice water, and a pinch of crushed turtle shell. Yes, really. To strengthen the fabric's memory, someone claims. Historians still debate whether that's a metaphor or a mistake. The process is simple in theory. Lay the robe flat on the bleach stone, smooth it in a clockwise spiral, sprinkle with rainwater, whisper the purification prayer, then wait. The prayer is short but oddly specific. White like wind, clean like breath, fade what burdens, keep what blesses. The robes are left for exactly 11 minutes and 44 seconds. Not a second more, not a second less. Why? Because that's how long it takes for the morning fog to rise to shoulder height. The inspector once explained it using a diagram and a piece of mango peel. You didn't understand then. You still don't. While the robes rest, you sit nearby, under a banyan tree. Kin joins you, tucking her feet under her robe. You heard? Heard what? Royal Underwear Day. You blink. That's not real. It is. She grins. Tomorrow, all undergarments of the royal family get cleaned. One day, no errors. It's like folding lightning. You groan. Why does the king need special underwear? She leans in. He doesn't, but the astrologers say his mood depends on the alignment of the cotton. You're not sure if that's absurd or brilliant. Probably both. The bleach stones begin to steam as the rain lets up. That's the cue. You and Mo step forward, carefully lifting the robes and transferring them to the wind frames, a series of bamboo lattices mounted between 2 temple walls, where purified fabric flutters like ghost flags. Suddenly a shout from the south wall. A younger washer, newer even than you once were, has folded a linen wrongly. A left-side spiral. On a right-fold day, people freeze. The inspector storms over, sniffs the fabric, sniffs the washer, and sighs deeply. Then he removes his cane, not to strike, but to gesture. To the pit, he says, the bleach pit. Oh no, you follow, along with the others. Not out of cruelty, but because watching is part of the lesson. The bleach pit is a circular depression filled with a sour, frothy mix of old rice wine, fermented beetle, and flour pulp. It's where unbalanced linens are reprocessed, and where the unfortunate washer must kneel and scrub by hand until the impurity is lifted. Some say it's penance, others call it hazing. You glance at Mo, he shrugs. I've been in twice. Why? He smiles faintly. First time I sneezed near a ceremonial loincloth. You wince. Still, the bleach pit isn't the worst job in the compound. That honour belongs to starch duty. Specifically, cow urine starch duty. Don't ask, but you're not doing that today. Instead, after the bleach session, you're pulled aside by the archivist. Again, she hands you a robe, heavy, stiff, smelling faintly of ash. It's the royal rain mantle, used once a year when the king stands in the open during the first thunder rite, inviting the storm to strike the golden umbrella while he chants to the heavens. The robe is thick, double woven, and rumoured to have never once gotten wet, even in the rain. Your job? Fold it. Not clean it, just fold. But there's a catch. The thunder fold is only ever performed during a real rainstorm. The robe must hear the thunder, smell the wet earth. Folding it dry is like singing to an empty room. Lucky for you, the clouds are cooperating. You stand under the western pavilion, the rain pattering against the tiles, robe spread before you. It's heavier than anything you've handled, woven with weights in the hem and charms sewn into the lining, tiny scrolls of scripture, sea pebbles, and what looks suspiciously like a frog bone. You begin, first fold, centerline compression. Second, left wing tuck. Third, sun pocket inversion. Fourth, wind curve. Fifth, pause, wait for thunder. Sixth, press during the rumble. Seventh, seal. And boom, there it is, thunder. Low, growling like the sky clearing its throat. You press the final fold, the robe settles. Literally, you feel it relax, like an animal folding its legs beneath itself. When you return it to the archivist, she doesn't say thank you. She just hands you a thin slip of paper. On it, tomorrow, royal underwear detail, smile. You groan. Kin cackles from across the courtyard. You thought folding the sky was hard, she calls. You haven't folded the king's boxes. There are moments in life you expect to feel triumphant. Scaling mountains, delivering speeches, maybe folding the ceremonial robes of a semi-divine monarch under thunderous skies. And then there are moments like this, holding the royal underwear of a man you've never been allowed to make eye contact with. It's Royal Underwear Day, a day whispered with fear, laughed about by starchers, dreaded by everyone else. The garments are stacked inside 6 lacquered chests, each lined with powdered rosewood and rabbit hair for moisture regulation. You're told not to breathe near them until the astrologer gives the go-ahead. You and a small team, Kin, Mo, and 2 unusually tall starchers, are assigned to the inner linen pavilion, a circular stone room sealed tight as a treasure vault. It's cool, dry, and lined with panels of ivory-coloured silk. The floor is covered in lotus petal dust to purify footfalls. This isn't laundry, it's ritualised intimacy with fabric that touches divinity. The astrologer arrives first. He's wearing 12 rings and smells like old paper and roasted coconut. He scans the underwear, yes, scans them, then nods. The alignment is favourable. You may now proceed. You open the first chest. Inside, a pair of silk long shorts, dyed pale gold, embroidered at the edges with sun motifs, and stitched along the waistband with a hidden prayer in Pali. Something about digestion and clarity. These, the archivist whispers, appearing suddenly behind you, are the mourning garments. She points to a smaller bundle tied with purple thread. These are the evening ones. You raise an eyebrow. She answers flatly, cooling properties. You decide not to ask further questions. The cleaning process involves mist-steaming, chant brushing, and a delicate blotting technique called the dry cloud method. Kin handles the steam kettle. Mo fans the drying cloths. You do the brushing. Each stroke is light, rhythmic, and accompanied by a murmur, bless the thread, ease the fold, purify the edge. Every now and then, you find something unexpected. A small bead sewn into the inner seam, for luck. A single tiger whisker, for courage. Or a fragment of jade crushed into the embroidery, to ward off jealousy in the southern chambers, or whatever that means. Historians still argue whether royal undergarments truly carried coded charms, or if the tailors were just superstitious. But you believe it. You're holding a pair of pants that feels heavier than logic. At one point, Kin leans over and murmurs, "This one's got a peacock feather stitched inside the hem." "Why?" you ask. She shrugs. "Maybe for strutting." You choke back a laugh. Not aloud. Laughter during underwear folding could be interpreted as irreverence. You silently promise the robe gods that you'll atone with starch duty if necessary. The folding pattern for these garments is surprisingly complex. It's called the 7 humility fold, designed to represent modesty, containment, and readiness. You memorize it as you go. First fold, waistband inward to hold secrets. Second, left leg over right to humble desire. Third, rise the middle to center thought. Fourth, pinch edges to align virtue. Fifth, press gently, not firmly, these are royal cheeks. Sixth, tuck the prayer thread beneath the crest. Seventh, rest the bundle like a moon on water. Each completed fold is placed on a tray carved from sandalwood, warmed by proximity to jasmine embers. The tray is then passed through a curtained window, where it vanishes into the invisible logistics machine of the palace. You never see who takes it. You never ask. Halfway through, you come across something truly bizarre. A garment unlike the rest. Coarser, hand-stitched, made from blue-dyed hemp and faintly marked with what looks like a map. Tiny symbols line the inside hem, stars, dots, even wave patterns. Kin leans in. That's not standard issue, Mo frowns. It's coded. You call the archivist. She inspects it. Her brow furrows. This, she says slowly, is the prince's underrobe. Not the crown prince, the spare, the other prince, the one with naval ambitions, a fondness for foreign stories, and rumours claim a secret plan to build an ocean fleet against the astrologer's advice. And now you're holding his underwear, with what looks like a nautical chart sewn inside. You all look at each other, say nothing. You fold it extra gently. When it's done, you seal it in a silk pouch. Not standard procedure, but Kin insists. For karma. The astrologer returns near sundown. He smells like ginger and thunder this time. He inspects your stacks, nods once. Balance has been maintained. Then he leaves. Mo lets out a long breath. We lived. You slump onto a reed mat, exhausted. Kin lies back beside you. There's a joke in here somewhere. Go on, she thinks. What do you call a king's underwear with 7 folds? What? She grins. The royal rap sheet. You groan, but you smile. You survived Royal Underwear Day, just barely. Later that night, a small note is left by your mat. It's written in green ink. Just 3 words. Moon robes, midnight. You show it to Kin. She whispers, "Oh no, that's not an assignment." "It's not?" She nods grimly. "It's an invitation." You don't sleep. How could you? Midnight approaches, and you're sitting on the edge of your mat, fully dressed in your cleanest grey robe, teeth chattering, not from cold, but from the kind of anticipation that lives behind your ears and crawls down your spine. Kin hasn't said a word in hours. She's just been watching you from across the room, chewing a lotus seed and giving you the occasional pitying look. When the gong chimes softly in the distance, once, twice, then silence, she finally nods. You'd better go. You rise. Not sure if you're ready. Not sure what ready even means anymore. The note didn't say where, but you know. Everyone does. The moon chamber. It's not marked on any map, not spoken of openly, and certainly not part of any official laundry rota. It's reserved for rituals that happen only when the moon is full and hanging high enough to cast shadows that stretch like threads across the palace courtyard. You walk barefoot through empty corridors, past the drying halls, past the sacred bleach stones, past the HTI pavilion. You follow the silver glow that drips through carved lattice windows and pools like liquid silk across the floor. Finally, you reach it. The moon chamber. It's a small circular room made entirely of white stone. The walls are carved with swirling patterns of clouds, stars, and parasols. The ceiling is open, fully open to the sky. No roof, just air and moonlight. In the centre, a pedestal, and on it, the moon robe. It's breathtaking. You folded the sky, touched sacred peacock silk, ironed ghost-stitched hems. But nothing compares to this. The robe is so pale it almost isn't there, dyed with crushed white lotus, moonstone powder, and fish-scale glaze. It seems to shimmer and vanish depending on how you move. You blink and it flickers like candlelight. You blink again, and it's still. It is worn only once a year, the night of 9 vows, when the king ascends the monastery steps barefoot, offers vows under starlight, and stands perfectly still while monks recite 999 lines of scripture. The robe must not move, it must not wrinkle, it must look untouched by human hands. That's your job. You approach the pedestal. There's no one here, no monk, no inspector. Just a single set of instructions etched into the pedestal. Fold in silence. Do not breathe on the fabric. If the moon hides behind a cloud, stop. You swallow. Carefully. First, you wash your hands. There's a bowl of moon-reflected water beside the pedestal. You dip your fingers. Cold. Bracing. You whisper the traditional entry chant. Silver thread in sky and breath. Carry stillness. Whisper death. Yeah, it's not exactly comforting. Then you begin the lunar rap pattern, a sequence so old it predates the current dynasty. The archivist once said it came from a vision a monk had after being struck by lightning. A vision that included diagrams of fabric. Step 1. Fold the hem inward towards the heart. Step 2. Reverse the left sleeve, but not the right. Step 3. Roll the collar edge into a half spiral. Step 4. Pause. Let the robe settle. Step 5. Fold the right sleeve over the hem, only if the moon is still visible. You glance up. The moon is clear. Good. You move to step 6. The breathless press. You place your palm flat on the center of the robe and hold it there. No pressure, just presence. You hold your breath. Count to 7. Then release. Finally the 7th fold. The veil fold. You lift the garment and turn it into itself, once, twice, 3 times, like closing a secret. When it's done, the robe lies there like a whisper folded into silk. Perfect. Untouched. Still shimmering. And then, just as you step back, a breeze. A strong one. It rushes through the chamber carrying petals from somewhere, rattling a chime in the far corridor, lifting your hair. And the robe moves. Not wildly. Not ruined. Just a flutter. A ripple in one corner. You freeze. Look up. The moon has slipped behind a cloud. You're now in forbidden territory. Technically, you're supposed to stop, wait for the moon, refold, start over. But the robe has already folded itself, as if responding to something you missed. You step closer, heart hammering. There on the hem, something new. A crease you didn't place. It's perfect. And it wasn't there a second ago. It curls slightly, shaped like an old character. One you recognize from scrolls. It means mercy. You didn't put that there. You didn't do that. Unless you did. Historians still argue whether the moon robe folds itself once per generation, choosing the hands it wants to wear it, or whether sleep-deprived laundry workers hallucinate better than anyone else. Either way, as you're not touching it again, you bow, step back, and wait. Eventually the moon returns, the crease remains, the robe remains, and the pedestal, carved with that sacred silence, glows faintly, like it's nodding. You return to your mat before dawn, barefoot, breathless. Kin is awake. She doesn't ask what happened. She just hands you a cup of ginger broth and says, "You'll be insufferable now." You sip it and smile. Not insufferable, just chosen. You're not entirely sure how to go back to Scrubbingham stains after folding a robe that may or may not have folded itself under moonlight. But the palace doesn't pause for metaphysical laundry experiences. The next morning, you're back in the courtyard holding a bamboo ladle and elbow-deep in starch made from fermented rice glue and cow urine. A reminder from the universe. Even chosen ones get dirty fingernails. Your task is deceptively mundane. Refreshing the queen's sleep linens, white on white silk sheets, embroidered with pale thread that disappears when wet, reappears when dry, and refuses to lie flat unless spoken to politely. You've tried yelling. It just wrinkles harder. You're assigned to the west drying yard, also known as the whispering field. Supposedly, if you lay the sheets at just the right angle, the wind carries away bad dreams. As you work, Kin appears beside you, balancing a tray of lavender starch and mango rind brushes. "Still glowing?" she asks. You blink. "What?" She gestures at your face. You have the look of someone who's either seen a miracle or slept through their shift. You smirk. Bit of both. Kin leans in. "I heard from the starchers. You're being considered for Silken Lotus rank." You nearly drop your sheet. Silken Lotus isn't just a fancy title. It's elite. The top laundry designation before you're allowed into the robbing hall, where the actual dressing of royalty occurs, not folding, not prepping, draping. Guiding, adorning, and if you're lucky, speaking. Only 6 people in the palace hold that title, and one of them hasn't blinked in 3 years. You return to your sheet, trying not to smile too hard, but the fabric's soft resistance reminds you this isn't guaranteed. One wrinkle, one tear, and your destiny is rerouted back to die duty. As you rinse the hem, a runner approaches. Small, serious, breathless. He holds a scroll tied with black thread. Urgent assignment. You unfold it. Minister of Water's arrival robes prepare for display. Third light chamber, by sundown. You groan softly. The Minister of Water is infamous among the washer ranks, not because he's cruel, because he's terrifyingly meticulous. The man reportedly once delayed a flood ritual for 2 hours because the crease on his left sleeve was 2 fingers off angle. His arrival robe is an architectural nightmare. A 5-layered ensemble dyed in gradient shades of river flow. From muddy delta brown to glacial mist, it's intended to show harmony between upstream and downstream forces, woven with symbols of fish, frogs, rain clouds, and, somehow, irrigation ditches. You and Mo are assigned the prep. Kin wisely pretends to be on tea duty. You enter the third light chamber, so named because the windows are carved to let in exactly the third angle of morning sun as it reflects off the palace's west spire. The light cuts in at a slant, illuminating everything in a soft, holy haze. You spread out the robe. It's gorgeous, but also filthy. Probably ceremonial mud from a river blessing. Maybe Beetlejuice. Maybe both. You get to work. The fabric is soaked with a rinse made of fermented basil, copper dust, and jasmine. The scent is overwhelming, like an herbalist got drunk and wrestled a spice rack. Mo works in silence. You chant the riverfold hymn under your breath. Flow bends but does not break. Dirt moves but does not stay. Edges curl with kindness. You feel the robe respond. The sleeves stop resisting. The hem uncrinkles. Even the frog motif on the back seems to sigh. By sunset, the robe is radiant, layered, shimmering, absolutely full of itself. Just in time, the Minister of Water arrives. You and Mo kneel as he inspects the garment. He circles it. Once, twice. He touches the frog. You hold your breath. Then he says, in a voice like water moving over stones, "It is satisfactory." You exhale so hard your ribs ache. He leaves without another word. You turn to Mo. "We just got a compliment." He nods. "I need to lie down." That night you're summoned again, but not by a scroll, by the inspector. He's waiting in the courtyard, cane tapping. "You've folded storm, moon, and dream," he says. "Now it's time to fold the past." You stare. "Excuse me?" He gestures toward the old stone path behind the HDI pavilion, the one you've never walked. "Archivist robes, for the scroll ceremony." You blink. "Those are real." "Of course they're real," he mutters. "Who do you think folds the history?" And that's how, 20 minutes later, you're standing before a set of garments older than your grandmother's ghost stories. They're yellowed with time, stitched with script instead of symbols, and tied with cords made from braided monk sashes. You touch one. It feels like parchment. These aren't just robes. They're documents. And tomorrow morning, they'll be worn in a silent procession through the palace, the scroll ceremony, where high monks carry sacred texts through every hallway, reminding the court that words come before action. Your job is to fold them without disturbing the ink. Not a single smudge. No pressure. But for now, the inspector hands you a cup of warm plum wine. "Rest," he says. "You'll need your hands steady." You stare at the ancient robes and realize you're not folding clothes anymore. You're folding memory. The robe feels older than your bones. You lift it slowly, as if it might sigh or crumble. The archivist robes are unlike anything you've handled before. Less fabric, more story, a mosaic of fragments stitched together over decades, even centuries. The hem bears faded ink lines, notes from scholars long gone. The inner lining is made of scraps from retired scrolls, hand-sewn into the shape of history. These robes are not worn, they're inhabited. You're kneeling in the scriptorium cloister, a cool, shaded hallway between the palace library and the royal shrine of paper, where ink itself is considered sacred. Scrolls hang from the beams like tapestries. The scent of sandalwood and rotting papyrus fills the air. This is where knowledge sleeps, until it's walked. The scroll ceremony is tomorrow. Monks will process through the palace in silence, each wearing a robe representing a different era, The Reign of Elephants, the Great Famine, the Two Kings' War, and so on. Your task? Fold those robes so precisely that the stories stay folded into them, not one crease out of time, not one tug of modern fingers, and most importantly, don't correct the past, even if it's crooked. Kin arrives halfway through your unfolding. She doesn't speak at first, just watches you peel back layers of yellowed silk, each marked with a year or a poem or a bloodline. Finally, she murmurs, "You're handling the fifth king's robe, the one that survived the fire." You pause. Sure enough, the inner hem is singed, only a little, just enough to whisper, "Someone tried to erase me." The stitching near the collar is uneven, almost frantic, like someone repaired it in the dark. "Don't fix it," Kin warns softly. "Even the crooked seam?" "Especially the crooked seam. The folding sequence is obscure. You had to learn it from a scroll that disintegrated slightly when you breathed on it. It's called the memory fold. It has no straight lines. Every crease must arc. Every tuck must lean slightly left. The technique is designed to mimic the way people remember. Imperfect, biased, beautiful. First fold under the heart line. Second, across the left shoulder, not the right. Third, diagonal to allow forgetting. Fourth, pause for silence. Fifth, tuck history into the sleeve. Sixth, seal it with a word. You choose the word remain. As you finish, you feel a strange warmth from the fabric, like someone is watching, or remembering with you. Mo appears next, carrying the robe from the era of empty bowls. It's plain, rough, no embroidery, just one line of thread across the chest, red, for blood spilled without war. The archivist joins you as you lay it flat. "Fold that one gently," she says. "It was worn when we ran out of rice, and still prayed anyway." Kin lays out the Twin King robe, covered in patterns of dual crowns stitched back to back. The fabric is slit in the middle. The story: two brothers ruled together, split the kingdom, then each blamed the other for the rain's failing. The monks will wear these robes not to look regal, but to remind everyone, this has happened before. History, in folds. By moonrise, the robes are ready. All 13, lined in sequence on a lacquered bench, each with a silk label tied with jute thread and a whisper of its meaning. You bow to them. You really do, because by now it feels like the only proper response. As you leave the scriptorium, the archivist places a hand on your shoulder. "You've done well," she says, "but tomorrow you'll do more." You don't ask what that means. You'll find out. Sure enough, before dawn a runner arrives, not with a scroll, with a robe, folded, crimson, embroidered in black, wrapped in shadow silk. You recognize it immediately. It's the robe of the forbidden steamer room, a place whispered among the laundry workers like a bedtime horror story. Supposedly there's a sealed chamber deep beneath the palace where the most sacred silks are steamed, not for wear, but for binding spirits. And this robe, it's said to be used in rituals that only happen when the king's lineage is in question. Kin sees it, and blanches. "You're not supposed to even know about this robe." You nod. And yet, here it is. The wrapping cloth bears a wax seal you've only seen once, on the scroll of the peacock robe. You know what this means. You've been called into the shadow tier, laundry's last layer, the realm where the folds aren't just for fabric, but for politics, secrets, fate. Later, inside the steamer room, you feel it instantly. Thick, oppressive heat. Not from the fire, but from the robes. They seem to pulse with unshed steam, hanging on bronze rods shaped like open mouths. The forbidden steamer is silent. No fire crackles. The heat comes from stone blocks still warm from rituals performed long ago. The air tastes like salt and lavender and, oddly, cloves. A monk waits by the back wall. His face is hidden. He gestures to the crimson robe. You open it. It's unlike anything you've seen. One sleeve is embroidered with vines, the other snakes. The hem bears names in thread so tiny it looks like it was stitched by ants. All previous kings, every one of them. Your job? Fold it, without being seen, and without leaving a mark. You do. Slowly, carefully. Following the rhythm you learned weeks ago, but backward. This robe folds in reverse. Left becomes right. Inward becomes outward. Because sometimes, history must be turned inside out before it can be hidden again. When it's done, the monk takes it without a word. You leave the steamer room shaken. Outside, Kin waits. She looks at your face and doesn't ask what happened. She just says, "You've seen too much now," you nod. "You really have." And the folds, they're getting heavier. You don't sleep that night. You lie on your mat listening to the rhythmic scrape of ladles, the splash of rinse water, the soft chant of someone folding in the east corridor. But the real noise is inside your head. You keep seeing that crimson robe, the vines, the snakes, the names in thread. You saw a name on the hem. Not the king's, not any current royal. You're not supposed to know what that means, but you do. And now so does the robe. At dawn, you're handed an assignment that's equal parts terrifying and hilarious. Pressing duty for the sacred umbrella silks. Yes. Again. But this time, you're not folding. You're pressing. The inspector doesn't trust you with the iron, not quite. But he lets you prepare the coals. That's how you know you're in deep. No one touches the heat stones without approval from 3 departments and a small army of nervous starchers. The sacred pressing iron is a curious object, shaped like a bird with open wings, carved from obsidian and fitted with a bamboo handle wrapped in leather. It sings when it's too hot. Literally. Emits a whine, a kind of melodic hum like a swallowed flute. Only 3 people in the palace know how to calm it. You're now the 4th. Mo shows you how to light the coals using perfumed resin and dried mushroom powder, which helps keep the heat emotionally balanced. You raise an eyebrow at that, but he just nods seriously. An agitated coal will blister silk. An agitated soul will blister you. Fair. The pressing itself is slow, meditative. You pass the iron across the silks while chanting the forewind verse, a prayer to avoid static cling, misaligned threads, and demons. Probably. The silks respond well. They shimmer, stretch, settle. One of them, a silver streamer embroidered with cloud patterns, hums back at the iron. That's considered a compliment. Kin joins you mid-morning, helping to fold the cooling silks into stacked spirals that resemble open lotuses. It's a beautiful illusion. Almost no one ever sees them like this. Just the draping team, the iron masters, and you. She glances at the silks. They're light today, you nod. Too light, she frowns. You're thinking about the crimson robe. You don't answer, because she's right. Later, after lunch, fermented mango paste on rice, better than yesterday's steamed peanut stew, you're summoned. Not by scroll, not by runner, by music. A bamboo flute playing a 5-note phrase that no one in the laundry courtyard recognizes, except the archivist. She stands up, brushes off her hands. "Come with me," she says. You obey. She leads you through a hidden gate behind the pressing shed, into a part of the palace few laundrymen ever see, the Hall of Silk Records. It's massive, quiet, endless. Bolts of royal fabric are stored here, each wrapped in paper marked with dates, names, and little ink drawings. Some serious, some silly. One robe bears a chicken wearing a crown, another, a sleeping cat with 3 tails. The archivist speaks as you walk. There are robes that change the weather. Okay. There are robes that summon armies. Sure. And there are robes, she says, pausing to open a heavy teak door, that must never be worn again. Inside is a small pedestal. On it, a sealed bundle bound with string dyed indigo and marked with wax in the shape of a single eye. You recognize the glyph. It's the robe of the iron that sings. Your throat goes dry. That robe is legendary, not just because it hums when pressed, but because it once screamed. The story goes, 3 reigns ago, a garment meant for the coronation day refused to lie flat. It twitched. It buzzed. It burned the hands of the starcher. When the iron was applied, it sang so loud it shattered a window. The king wore a different robe that day. This one was sealed. Until now. "Why me?" you whisper. The archivist places a hand on the bundle. "Because you're the only one it hasn't hurt." You prepare your station in the whispering field. Just you, the iron, a bowl of ash water, and a brush dipped in moon dust. The robe is unwrapped with ceremony, its stitches still tight, its fabric still faintly humming. You press it. It sighs. You press again. It sings. Not loud, not painful, just soft, like someone remembering. It's not a song you know, but you listen and fold. 1 breath per crease, one hum per fold. The robe responds, and when it's done, it lies perfectly flat, content. The archivist approaches, picks it up, smiles. You've tamed it. You nod, but inside your mind is racing, because during the pressing you saw something, a name, stitched into the lining, carefully hidden, not a king, not a prince, a washer's name, and not just any washer, yours. You stagger back. Kin catches you. She sees your face and doesn't ask. She just says, "Whatever it means, it's not an accident." You whisper, "But it's impossible." She shrugs. So is a robe that sings. And you realize something. You're not folding fabric anymore. You're folding threads of fate. And somehow they already know your name. You're shaking. Not enough for anyone to see, but enough for the robe to feel it, if it's still listening. You want to scream or laugh or run headfirst into a wall until this all makes sense. But instead, you just keep folding. Because what else is there to do? The name stitched into the hem was yours. Not a coincidence, not a fluke. Exactly your name. Same characters, same spelling. Even the tiny curve in the final glyph, the one your mother used to say looked a little too poetic for a boy's name. It's your name, sewn into a robe older than your service in the palace, older than your first footstep onto the courtyard stones. You don't tell anyone, not yet. Because if this is what you think it is, it's too dangerous to name. Instead, you return to the mundane, or try to. Your next assignment is something called ripple control. Sounds like a joke. It's not. Turns out, for a ceremony taking place in the Great Lake Shrine, the king will be seated on a floating silk-covered platform. And the problem is, silk ripples, wind, breath, bad energy, surprise coughs, anything can cause tiny distortions that offend the aesthetics of harmony. So now, you're trained in ripple suppression. It starts with selecting the right silk, wind-damp weave, laced with bat hair fibre and mulberry extract. The silk is laid over a pool of shallow water, and you're asked to breathe near it, move your fingers, step around the edges, watch what disturbs it, and then undo it. Your hands become airbrushes. Your breath becomes a tool. You fold without touching. You press without pressure. Be lighter than the ripple, says the trainer, but heavier than the memory. Helpful. The true test comes during the Lake Harmony rehearsal. You and 3 others must dress the floating platform at dawn. The king won't be there yet, but his reflection might be. The water must remain clear, the fabric must not shift, and the robe that covers the cushion, the seat robe, must fall in perfect verticals like a monk's prayer beads. You lay the cloth, fold the edges, pin the corners using pearl weights strung with hair from white buffalo. Yes, apparently that's a thing. And finally you wait. The inspector arrives, walking along the edge like a tightrope artist. He looks at the silk. "You failed," he says quietly. Your heart seizes, but only because, he continues, pointing upward, you forgot the sky. You look. Clouds. Their reflection on the silk causes distortions. Not folds, not wrinkles, just illusions. But illusions matter. You lower the silk, wait for the sky to clear and refold. Only when the water reflects nothing but clarity does the inspector grunt and walk away. Kin finds you afterward. You've now officially folded air. You sigh. I miss sweat stains. But there's no time to dwell, because that night you're summoned. Again. By the archivist? No, by the astrologer. This is a problem. He never calls the laundry staff. You're led through a twisting corridor into a room of stars, literally. The ceiling is covered in polished crystal spheres, each reflecting moonlight at different angles. It feels like standing inside a bowl of starlight soup. The astrologer is waiting. He doesn't offer tea. He points to a cloth-covered tray. You pull back the fabric. It's a robe. Not an ordinary one. This one's half-formed. Only the right half is finished. Fully embroidered with images of mythical beasts, waves, and lotus blooms. The left half is blank. You will finish it, he says. You blink. Sir, I'm not a tailor. I didn't say stitch it, he interrupts. I said fold it. It must be folded into completion. You open your mouth, close it, open it again. But how do I... It remembers, he says simply. You stare at the fabric. It's soft, like twilight. And as you move it, the images shift. Waves flow. Birds turn mid-flight. The robe is anticipating you. You realize it's not that the left half is empty. It's waiting for you to decide what memory to awaken. You begin with the lotus bloom fold. Gentle, slow, spiraling. The fabric tightens slightly. Then you move to the heaven-line tuck. Sharp, sudden, decisive. The fabric accepts it. You experiment. One fold for storm, another for silence, another for kindness. The robe begins to shimmer. Images appear. Where your fingers fold, new embroidery emerges, not stitched, unveiled. Kin is summoned mid-session to witness. She gasps when she sees it. The robe's left half now shows a story. Your story. Not just names and lines, but symbols. A bundle of laundry tied in green cord, a pair of broken sandals, a tiny phoenix feather, your folded world, mapped onto cloth. When you finish, the astrologer says only, "So it's you." That's when you ask, the name in the crimson robe. He nods. It's you. Or rather, it was you. You stare. I've been here before? He walks past you. In a way. How? He touches one of the star globes. It flickers. We think of time as straight, but fabric knows better. Fold anything long enough and it touches itself. You whisper, "Am I the robe?" He chuckles. "No, you're the hands." You leave the astrologer's chambers dizzy, shaking, staring at your fingers like they're strangers. Kin walks beside you in silence. Then she says, "If time's a fold, maybe you've already finished the story," you say. Or maybe, she adds, you're just the crease that started it. The morning sun feels different now. You walk through the laundry courtyard like someone who's seen the underside of time and folded it neatly into a square. But of course, no one else knows. To them, you're still just the guy who got good at folding royal underwear and occasionally makes the starch whistle when the iron hums. Today's assignment doesn't come with a scroll or a whisper. It comes with a nod from the inspector. He gestures to the east wall where the garments for today's ceremony are laid out on reed mats. Dozens of ceremonial sashes for the scribes attending the festival of recounting. It's a ritual where the royal record keepers stand beneath a banyan tree and recite the year's entire history from memory, while wearing sashes that each represent a different category of knowledge. War, peace, harvests, dreams. Yes, dreams. That one's stitched in midnight blue and faintly smells like camphor and nutmeg. Kin says it gives people strange visions if folded backwards. She's probably joking. Probably. You and Mo begin folding. The technique for these sashes is called the scroll wrap, a tight layered coil that resembles a rolled manuscript. It's elegant, efficient, and apparently historically contentious. Historians still argue, Mo mutters, whether the third loop should fall inward or out. You nod. I've read the debates. Someone once got exiled for folding it clockwise during a solar eclipse. Mo grins. Lucky for you, it's a cloudy Tuesday. The folding takes hours. The weight of each sash varies. Some are embroidered with gemstones. Yes, gemstones, in the shape of ancient letters. Others contain inked prayers between the seams. Kin stops by carrying a bowl of sliced jackfruit and a look of mild concern. They've moved the dream sash ceremony to midday, she says. You blink. Midday? That's high energy, maximum interference. Folding dream sashes during the sun's peak is ill-advised. You bow over the cloth, start again. This time, each crease is paired with a hum. Not a melody, just breath shaped like rhythm. The sash curls obediently, but something happens. The last sash, a soft one, made of woven cotton lotus blend, refuses the third loop. You try again. It twists. You try a gentler fold. It curls into a knot. Mo watches. That one's misaligned, you frown. It's the dream sash. Maybe it wants to be unfolded, he suggests. You consider it. You unroll the sash completely, lay it flat. That's when you see it. A line of embroidery inside the hem. Not decorative, not visible unless the fabric is turned precisely inside out under direct light. A message, not in Pali, not in Burmese, your dialect, from the north. No one here should know that. You whisper the words aloud. What you fold, you hide. What you unfold, you reveal. Kin hears. Her eyes go wide. That's from the Whispering Sutra, she says. That's... She stops, looks around, lowers her voice. That's supposed to be lost. You fold the sash gently, not in the scroll wrap, but in a hybrid you invent on the spot. Part spiral fold, part dream coil, finished with a pinch at the edge. The fabric sighs. You pass the sash to the courier. He hesitates, then bows. It's accepted. Later, during the ceremony, you're told the dream reader, yes, that's a real role, wept, said the sash, opened a door she thought was sealed. You don't know what that means, but you feel it. Things are shifting. The inspector finds you near the rinse basin. Come, he says. You follow him, not to the courtyard, not to the pavilion, to the silence room. No one speaks here. It's reserved for one purpose, revenge. That's not a joke. In the palace, revenge isn't served cold. It's folded, pressed and delivered as a message. A slightly flawed robe, an intentional crease, a button left open. Each can be a politically loaded statement. Delivered correctly, it insults without incriminating. You're being taught how. Inside, the archivist stands beside a table. Laid out is the robe of displeasure, a dull green garment with red thread accents, designed to say, you are being watched. It's not official, it's not declared, it's understood. Today, the target is a regional noble who delayed sending tribute rice. Your job, fold his gift robe just wrong enough to make a point. The inspector leans over your shoulder. Fold the left hem slightly longer. It means you think he drags his feet. Crease the shoulder higher than the right. Suggest he's trying to look taller. Leave the inside tie visible. Imply he hides things. You do all of this. With care. With precision. With the knowledge that your folds are now language. You're no longer laundering garments. You're speaking through them. The robe is sealed. Sent. No one will ever accuse you. But the message will be received. Kin meets you afterward. That was dangerous. You nod. But necessary. She studies you. You've become something else. You don't respond. Because she's right. And deep down you wonder, are you still folding for the palace? Or is the palace folding around you? At dawn, a servant girl no older than 12 places a folded square of silk on your mat and disappears. It's not a command. It's an invitation. The cloth bears a black swan embroidered in silver thread. Wings outstretched, head bowed. The emblem of the robbing hall. This is it. The final layer. You've cleaned under robes steeped in sweat and powdered pearl. You've folded linen meant to catch spilled tears. You've pressed silks that hum, that breathe, that blink in candlelight. But the robbing hall? That's something else entirely. That's touching royalty. You don't tell anyone, not even kin, as you pass through the inner gate and descend the silent corridor lined with mirrors and lotus blossom sconces. At the end of the hall, an obsidian door shaped like a folded fan. It opens without a sound. Inside is light, filtered through gauze, soft, sacred. The robbing hall isn't ornate, it's calm, built like a thought held in stillness. In the centre, there are no tables, no shelves, just a low platform, a single stool, and an ivory stand on which the garments of the day await. The king's festival robes. They've been prepared by 7 others, all older than you, all ranked, all staring at you like you're either a child who wandered into the fire pit, or a match they didn't see coming. The master of the robes steps forward. You've never seen him before. He wears no colour. His eyes are grey. His hands are smoother than water. You're the fold, he says. You nod. You're not to speak today. You nod again. He gestures to the robe. It's magnificent. Violet layered with wine red. Trimmed in silver braid so fine it hums when you move. It's not just clothing. It's a mood the king will wear, designed to match the Festival of 9 Lights, a ceremony meant to show strength cloaked in humility. And it must move perfectly. Not too tight to restrict walking, not too loose to flutter undignified. Your role? The final tuck. The last fold placed after the robe is donned, at the collarbone just beneath the throat, a crease that tells everyone the king is complete. You rehearse on a mannequin that looks unsettlingly like the king. Even the eyebrows are correct. You fold, press, undo, repeat, dozens of times. Your hands stop trembling by the 20th fold, just in time, because suddenly everything stills, and the king enters. You've never seen him this close. You expected height, opulence, aura. What you didn't expect was stillness. He moves like a curtain drawn by wind, graceful but final. Not one step wasted, not one blink rushed. He stands silently on the platform as the robe team moves around him, each one placing a layer, a sash, a cuff, a ribbon. The fabric is alive under your fingers, responding to breath, posture, energy, and then it's your turn. You step forward. You can feel everyone watching. The king's chest rises and falls slowly. You lift the collar fold, tuck gently, press. Your thumbs linger for a heartbeat. The robe settles, and the king, he does not speak, but you see it. A nod, tiny, but real. You step back. The master of the robe speaks one word, accepted. The king leaves. The robe goes with him. You remain. The master turns to you. You will now be called Whisperfold. It's not a title. It's not a name. It's a role. He gestures behind the curtain. There, hanging on an ebony rack, is a set of grey and silver robes embroidered with wave patterns and tiny script that looks like falling dust. Yours, he says. You dress silently. When you return to the courtyard that evening, Kin is waiting. She sees the robes, raises an eyebrow. Well, I was hoping you'd be a starcher for life, but I guess you get to touch royalty now. You grin. Want to touch my sleeve? It's legally majestic. She rolls her eyes. Just don't forget us. I won't. You mean it. But things are different now. That night, a thunderstorm rolls in. Heavy rain. Distant bells. You walk the laundry path alone, inspecting drying racks, murmuring blessings, adjusting starch ratios out of habit. At the far end of the courtyard, you see it. A robe hung upside down. That's not an accident. That's a message. You approach. It's simple. White linen, no embroidery. But the hem is marked, in grey ink, faint, almost invisible. A fold line, one you've never seen before. You trace it, and suddenly, you remember. Not just a moment, a lifetime. Another robe, another hand, another fold. You've done this before, not just this job. This life. You sit down on the stones, let the rain fall, because now you understand. Folding isn't just a job, it's a pattern of being, and you've been folded here, again and again, like a robe placed back into the drawer of time. And now, you're ready to unfold. The rain doesn't stop. It hisses against the tiles, pools in the seams of the courtyard, slides down the folds of every sheet, every sash, every robe you've ever touched, as if the palace itself is remembering along with you. You sit there a long while, cross-legged on the damp stone, watching droplets run across your sleeves. The grey and silver robes you were given this morning, so pristine when you first wore them, are already speckled and softened, clinging to your skin like they've known you longer than a single day. And maybe they have, because now you know this has happened before. You folded this life into being more than once. That robe with your name stitched inside, that wasn't a coincidence. That was residue, a remnant of another fold in time, another life lived and pressed into the fabric of this one. You didn't just survive the palace laundry, you became its thread. The message on the hem of the dream sash, the hidden glyphs in the forbidden steamer room, the way the moon robe folded itself under your hands like it already knew you. You understand now. Each of those was a crease in your story, a gentle tug from something larger than memory, from the pattern itself. You rise, your knees ache, your hands, though, steady. You cross the courtyard and reach the robe hanging upside down. It's still there, rippling lightly in the breeze, marked with that strange, unfamiliar fold line. Except, it's not unfamiliar anymore. You press 2 fingers against the linen, trace the fold again. This time you remember how it ends. You fold the hem inward, then double the fabric diagonally. Not like a sash, not like a scroll. It's a map. The pattern isn't just symbolic. It leads somewhere. A fold for each chamber, a crease for each hidden passage. It's a path written in cloth. And the last fold, a spiral. Small, deliberate, placed over the heart. You look around. No one is watching, so you follow it. Through a door you've never opened. Into a hallway with no torches, only the glow of wet stone. Down a spiral staircase that wasn't on any diagram. Past robes older than the monarchy itself, suspended in glass cases, whispering as you pass. You reach a final room, circular, low-ceilinged, damp. At its centre a single robe, not folded, laid flat, waiting. The embroidery is worn, barely visible, but the shape, the structure, you know it instantly. It's yours, not new, not made, left. And beside it, A small bowl of thread, a needle, a tiny brush, a piece of parchment with the old character for return. The last task is yours. No one else is coming. No inspector, no astrologer, not even kin. You kneel, take the needle, stitch one final glyph into the collar. Not your name, not a symbol, a fold line. One that will lead the next version of you back here, someday. You press the final crease, and suddenly the room brightens. Not with light, but with calm. You exhale. Your task is done. Not ended. Just paused. Later you return to the courtyard, soaked, changed. Kin's waiting, of course. She eyes you, arms crossed. Went off and folded destiny again, didn't you? You nod. She doesn't smile, just steps forward and flicks your forehead. Next time, leave a note. You both laugh. And just like that, the world becomes quiet again, like freshly laundered linen, still warm. The festival bells ring in the distance. You look toward the palace gates, and for the first time in a long time, you're not afraid of the next robe, the next crease, the next impossible task. Because you know now, whatever's coming, you've already folded it once, and you'll fold it again, just like always. The palace quiets, the bells fade. Somewhere deep within its stone bones, steam rises from the rinse pots. Torches flicker in the laundry halls, and hands, some yours, some not, continue folding through time. The scent of lotus starch and sandalwood still lingers in the air, soft as breath, familiar as sleep. You let it settle into your lungs. Let your shoulders drop. The work is never truly over, but for now, the basin is empty, the last robe pressed, the final crease placed. Maybe that's what peace feels like in this place. Not the absence of work, but the knowledge that you've shaped something beautiful from the fabric of chaos. Inhale, exhale, feel the weight of the robe loosen, the silence stretch long and warm, the rain slow to a hush. A single fold can carry a burden, but it can also carry a beginning. So if you're lying there now, in your own bed, beneath your own roof, listening to the hum of a fan or the patter of rain against glass, just remember, even in the smallest gestures, the quietest motions, there's meaning, there's memory. And maybe, just maybe, in the folds of your blanket, in the stillness of your room, some tiny thread of this story lingers, tucked gently beneath your heart, ready for whatever dream unfolds next. Sleep well, 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 sleep well,